A moment in this country where we watch violence erupt. This cannot be the norm. It cannot be the way that we deal with our political differences. Now's the time for us to recommit to the core values of this country. And each and every one of us can do it. Talk to a neighbor rather than arguing. Debate an issue. Shake hands. Find common ground.
Governor Tim Walz there at a press conference after the gunman shot and killed Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Portman and her husband over the weekend. The attack considered a targeted political violence, also the word assassination used by investigators. Horrific details emerging on this one, Jang. Can it be as simple as what Tim Walz said, what you alluded to in our last story, talking to your fellow neighbors?
Yeah, well, look, that's going to work for a lot of folks, not going to work for a lot of folks. But among the people who I'm worried that it won't work for is mass shooters and killers and people who have lost touch with reality to the point where they're going to go murder politicians. So violence is a form of surrender, intellectual surrender. It means you're an idiot and you don't know how to win an argument, so you just resort to violence. That's what this guy did. And one of the things we get into right now is also which side is he on? Right wing had this preposterous idea that he was a left winger. That's not remotely true, not 1% true. So we'll get into that as well. Let's give you the details.
Well, the details, the killing was part of back-to-back shootings. They occurred early Saturday morning. The gunman, identified as 57-year-old Vance Luther Boelter. After a 48-hour manhunt, he was found, taken into custody. There you see the wanted posters. Vance Luther Boelter is accused of impersonating a police officer to carry out the attack on Saturday before exchanging fire with police officers and fleeing from the suburban area. Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Portman and her husband Mark shot and killed at their home in Brooklyn Park. Shortly before that shooting, State Senator John Hoffman, a Democrat, and his wife Yvette were both shot multiple times at their homes. They are pending surgery as we speak. Also, Senator Hoffman and his wife had been hit by 17 bullets between them. And here's what Boelter faces: 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree attempted murder. Authorities also found a hit list in his car. Authorities said they found a list in the suspect's vehicle that included other public officials. This possibly target list includes dozens of names of prominent Minnesotans who support abortion rights, including many Democratic lawmakers, also abortion providers, according to an official who has seen that document. His background in security appears to be completely fabricated. That was out there early. Social media posts and websites, Boelter said he had extensive experience as a security professional with training by both private security firms and by people in the US military. Now, NPR found little evidence to support Boelter's account. He appears to have worked most of his career in the food service industry. And one longtime friend described parts of Boelter's narrative about his life as, quote, fantasy. On the website for a company called Praetorian Guard Security Services, LLC, Boelter described himself as part of the leadership team. NPR found no record of the firm having clients or providing any services. Called to the company's phone number connected to what appears to be a private phone line, not a business. Address listed in incorporation papers appeared to be that of a law firm specializing in divorce litigation. Boelter himself appears to have had no history working in law enforcement, military or private security. Local news station Fox 9 interviewed one of Boelter's roommates. The longtime friends, David Carlson, downplayed the idea that he had any real world military or security experience. Quoting, he was always kind of into the military stuff, but it was just, we were always like that, me and him. We would play army men, Carlson said. Same time, he had very religious background, ironically, one that condemned acts of violence. Online Post painted a picture of Boelter as a devout Christian and pastor who preached at Laborn Matadi, a church in the Congo, according to photos on the church's Facebook page. An archive website for his ministry described his global travels to preach, stating he sought out militant Islamists in order to share the gospel and tell them that violence wasn't the answer. After the horrific news of the assassination broke, Trump at first didn't have the kindest words for Minnesota leadership. Let's revisit that. Here's what Rachel Scott of ABC had to say on Minnesota. I asked the president about the assassination and whether he plans to call the state's Democratic governor, Tim Walz, voting. Well, it's a terrible thing. I think he's a terrible governor. I think he's a grossly incompetent person, but I may call him. I may call other people too, the president said. He later slightly changed his tone per a statement posted by Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. I have been briefed on the terrible shooting that took place in Minnesota, which appears to be a targeted attack against state lawmakers. Our Attorney General Pam Bondi, the FBI are investigating the situation. They will be prosecuting anyone involved to the fullest extent of the law. Such horrific violence will not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless the great people of Minnesota, a truly great place. So there's the president once again responding in his unique fashion to a horrific tragedy in Minnesota. What do you make of not just that, but how we get here when we have this suspect? I've heard a lot of analysts, Cenk, on television talking about how this could have been prevented and the back and forth. You mentioned, the right claiming something outlandish, that this was a left plant who did this, conducted this violence. If the person's just unwell, unstable, does it even matter?
Yeah, no, it's very difficult to stop. So I'll get back to that in 1 second. So first, let's know the irony of this guy in a couple of ways. In that statement that Sharon read, you guys, these radical Muslims are also violent. Said the guy who went on to try to murder dozens of politicians in America. So yeah, no, I don't see that. I do see you though, brother. Trump, classy as always, doing a political attack right after a shooting of politicians. When he was shot at, we were fair on this show, and I said he was brave, etc. Got a lot of flack for it, but it's obvious. And then everybody said around him, "You're okay. You have to be super duper duper sensitive about the assassination attempt." And that makes sense. In this case, not an attempt. There's 2 people dead, another 2 shot. He was trying to murder a lot of people. Apparently, we don't have to be sensitive. We could just do an attack on Tim Walz right after the shooting. Okay, notice the double standards. Okay, now we move to whether they're right, whether he's right wing or not. It's not even close. So he's a fundamentalist Christian. Now, are all fundamentalist Christians serial killers like this, or mass shooters, or do these kind of political assassinations? No, of course not. Of course not. But is he in that category? Unfortunately, he is. Was it? Oh, there was a theory. Was Tim Walz put him on some sort of committee or something? There was like 1 million of those in every state. Nobody knows who's on him. So that, he's a Democrat. No, he's not at all a Democrat. Big time MAGA, Trump supporter. Does that mean all of MAGA wants to shoot Democrats? No, it doesn't, okay? So does it mean that some unfortunately go in that route of violence? Yes, obviously. Who was on his list? Everyone on his list was a Democrat, including Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, and he had no King's protest flyers because apparently he might have been planning to go and shoot people randomly at No King's protests because they're protesting Donald Trump. So if you're on the right wing, let it go. He's a right winger. It doesn't mean all right wingers are terrorists. When a Muslim does a bombing, it doesn't mean all Muslims are bombers or terrorists. When Israel goes and starts a war, it doesn't mean all Jews want to start wars, right? Even the governments like Israel don't represent all the people inside Israel, let alone all the Jews in the world. America, when we went to go do that disastrous war in Iraq, that didn't represent all Americans, right? So no, when a left-wing person does something terrible, it doesn't represent all the left wing. When a right-wing person does something terrible, it doesn't represent the whole right wing. But was he right-wing? Yes, yes, and the people who burned the Teslas were left-wing, okay? So we gotta stop doing this revisionist history and playing around with the facts. Oh, those facts are uncomfortable. I wanna blame the other side. No, boo, change the facts. No, we're not gonna change the facts. So, but can you stop a guy like this? That was your original question, Sharon. And the answer is very, very unlikely. So real quick on this one, let me give you the timeline of what happened. The two people he injured are actually the first people that he went to go see in their house. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning, pretending to be a cop, has a mask on. They realize he has a mask on, and they start trying to push him out of the house, and he starts shooting them. And he shot both the husband and the wife, but they managed to escape, and so they did not die. Amazing. He goes to another legislator's house. They happen to be on vacation. Oh, thank God, right? Goes to another legislator's house, all Democrats, okay? And by that time, the police had gotten the call that the other Democratic politicians had gotten shot. So there was a cop car in front of her house. Nice job, police in Minnesota, way to go. So she's alive because of that, okay? He goes to a fourth house, and that's where he finally kills the two people. And then the police see him doing it, he runs out the back door, etc. So how do you stop a guy like that? Well, number one, police work in the third case there actually did stop it. So that's why I say terrific job. Discredit to the cops when they do things that are wrong, beat up black people for no reason, kill black people. I said we've gone through all of that. When the powerful do something wrong, we must call them out. When they do something right, credit where credit is due, okay? But could cops have stopped the first one? Could they have stopped all of them? No. But if he did not have a gun, would it be less likely for him to be able to kill those people? Of course, of course. You could say, no, he could have brought a rope and he could have figured out how to tie it and then drag one of them and then somehow knock out the other one. I mean, you could, yeah, with a frying pan, maybe, right? But no, the gun makes it way, 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 way easier. So the number one thing you could do is gun control, but this country's never gonna do it. At least not in my lifetime. So just buckle up, there'll be these psychopaths, and at some point, they'll do either a mass shooting or political assassination near you because everyone in America has a gun, including the mentally ill.
Yeah, I did hear, and we'll wrap up the first hour, FBI profiler today on one of the channels saying that really the onus is on us and family and friends of the accused perpetrator in this. If you see something, if you hear radicalized speech, you have to speak up. But in today's current climate, I'm not sure people would recognize what is imminent, dangerous or violent speech versus radicalized speech. But that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.